So welcome everyone. How are you doing? I think I'm gonna ask how are you being? So this is gonna be a space that we're gonna explore that. Our beings, how are we being today? And the Brahma Kumaris, as we heard, is a spiritual organization who has meditation centers across the world, more than 110. We are affiliated with the United Nations, with ECOSOC, Economic and Social Forum, and we've been participating in climate change conferences and different environmental conferences through many years already. And this time around, we are here in the biodiversity conference, which we already been before. And today we're inviting you to explore this theme, which is to awaken a flourishing future. And the way to dive into this experience, because I invite you to actually touch your heart. If you can just bring your hand in your heart and just for a moment to close your eyes and to feel the beat of your heart. I can also invite you to connect with your breath, to breathe in and breathe out. You're gonna do this 3 times. So that's 1, breathe in, breathe out. That's 2, 1 more time, breathe in, and breathe out. So taking the time to just be in the present moment, to connect with our breath, to connect with our bodies also, which is so precious. And breath is the doorway to go within, and this space is really for us to go to experiences of going within today. And to awaken a flourishing future, there needs to be a key driver for that. And you probably heard where the negotiations are right now. They're kind of slow. Any questions around certain topics. We hear a lot about financing. Where's the money gonna go? How are things are gonna be implemented? But of course, this is the United Nations allowing the space for the different parties to come together. In one side we see this beautiful blue planet, what many faiths consider paradise. Many indigenous communities, have also taught us that this is our home, our common home. And when we look at Earth, we can see that every component of this planet deserves respect. From the microorganisms in the soil, from the plants, fungi, animals, the trees, the forests, all different ecosystems, volcanoes, mangroves, all of them deserve respect. And they have the right to exist. They have the right to exist in harmony. They deserve their well-being. And all these components are the foundation of our own well-being. The foundation for our own biodome, microdome, which is our intestine, all the flora that we have, all the bacteria, they're working constantly to make us happy, to allow us to be healthy. We can feel our blood, which are the reflection of the rivers. And as we go, we can see that every component also of our body is a reflection of the macrocosm. The universe, Earth, our bodies are sacred. And they're sacred because they reflect the beauty of the other world that we sometimes forget that is there, and it's very important to acknowledge it. And that's the spiritual dimension. The doorway to go to the spiritual dimension sometimes is breath, taking the time like we did before to go within. And this other world is a world where we can harness a spiritual energy that for me is the most renewable energy of the universe. And that renewable energy is very pure and is connected to a space, an inner dimension of silence and peace. When we connect to that dimension, we can feel another sense of well-being. It's not physical well-being, but it's a mental, emotional well-being that allows us to feel good. And that's why I was asking you how you feel, because it's very important to do things, but how we feel is even more important, because that's what attracts what we want to see in this world. To manifest this beauty, this spiritual energy into this physical world, we need to connect to our hearts. And today's we're going to speak about the connection between these two living systems, between the natural world and the spiritual world. And the way we approach this is a sort of an echo synthesis. When I'm aware, when I sit, I take the time to contemplate, I can feel the well-being of my body. I can feel all the different components. I can feel the physical well-being of breathing, of food, fresh air, walking, earth as a whole. I can feel the connection with the natural world. But at the same time, when I take the time to meditate and I contemplate, I can see this inner well-being that allows me to harness love, peace, gratitude, compassion. We can harness this pure spiritual energy. And as we go deeper, we can go into even a deeper experience of feeling even a deeper energy in that dimension. So today I invite you to feel your heart, to become, so we can open this network, a network of hearts. Because a network of hearts works in a different level. There's a very philosopher in the United States, Ken Wilber, that he talks about levels of awareness. And this awareness that I'm inviting you to come is a cosmocentric awareness. It's an awareness that we invite the universe, the planet, all the different components of the earth, but also the spiritual components, this inner dimension to be in our awareness, and we can exchange in reciprocity. And once we nourish ourselves from this inner dimension, we allow to give back to nature. And I want to offer you a little story. Just want to check time, but there's a story that I was going to Vancouver, from Calgary to Vancouver, and I still don't have a driver's license because I use bicycle. But the person next to me who did their whole journey, a 12-hour journey, driving through the Rockies, and thank you, to the Rockies. And what I decided to do is let me meditate, because apart from talking, at some point I didn't have anything less to talk. So I was like, let me meditate through the journey. And while I was meditating, I was harnessing this energy from this spiritual dimension and giving back to nature, because the journey was so beautiful. All the trees, the scenery was really amazing, all these mountains, so beautiful. So at some point we stopped, and there was this beautiful lake, like a postal card, the blue lake, the mountains, so beautiful. And then I decided, okay, let me give back to nature, because nature is giving me already so much. So I started to meditate, and then suddenly there was a smell, something not good. And then I saw all the fish on the shore that were dead. And it really surprised me, because it's how come in this beautiful place there was this fish, So I didn't understand until the day after, when I woke up and I had a dream that night. And in that dream, I was in the same lake, in the same place. It was a very vivid dream, but somehow I saw all the pollution in this lake. And I saw trash, I saw pollutants and everything, and then suddenly I saw something moving. and there was this beautiful fish with a lot of light and energy coming to me. And he came out of the water, just the mouth, and say, "Thank you. I am the spirit of this place." And I say thank you because the energy that you provided, or the energy you were sharing with me, it helped us to understand that a flourishing future can happen. That energy is making us, it's regenerating us. So thank you for that energy. So when I woke up, I was really mesmerized by that dream. And I realized how the power of meditation, the power of giving this energy to the natural world, can actually do something to the spiritual aspect of the planet. So I wanted to leave you with this story, so we can continue to explore this inner dimension and this connection with the spiritual dimension of the planet as well. And I hope you enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you, Juan, for that and that beautiful dream and story, and that's a real connection. It absolutely wasn't a one-way connection, it's a two-way connection. And I think that's very important to understand. Things have been one way, because as you said, nature's been giving to us in abundance. And what have we been giving back? Well, we haven't. It's been the opposite of giving. We continue to take. But once we start to give, the generosity of nature is that nature will return that giving. Thank you for that. And yes, absolutely, there's a very strong connection between our consciousness, our awareness, and the nature and the state of nature around us. And like you said, we're at a crucial point in the negotiations, we're at a crucial point in terms of what's happening with our planet. Many tipping points have been reached. And I was going to ask the question, so what role do I have to play? But you've answered the question, which is great. There is something that we can give. But of course, in terms of our consciousness, as Sister Genti had said in the video, there's a lot of violence in human consciousness today. And it may be anger, it may be hatred, or it may be fear. And perhaps one of the most pervasive emotions around at the moment is fear. And fear drives us to do many things that perhaps we wouldn't do otherwise. And also, what happens when there's fear is that we then find it very difficult to be the best of ourselves and to bring out our most positive qualities. Just an example, okay, you may be quite a tolerant person, a loving person, and then when you come up against something that is very scary for you, it's then difficult to continue to use the love. Just think about it in terms of human relationships. And I love everyone, but can I love the person who I don't get on with, who lives next door to me? There's fear. What is this going to do to me? And there's a lot of fear, whether it's the economic situation, whether it's the eco-crisis. And there is a very real syndrome now that's been named, and I'm always a little wary about naming syndromes, but climate anxiety, eco-anxiety, and it is actually a very real thing, especially amongst younger people. So there's a shift in consciousness that very much needs to happen, and because with that violence in human consciousness, we tend towards the exploitation, because our consciousness determines our attitude, determines our values, determines our decision making. So spiritual regeneration is really about reconnecting with who we truly are, and to go beneath those layers of fear and anger and negativity, which are not natural to us and are uncomfortable to us. We don't like to stay there. We want something more. And when we come to the heart of our being, we find we have many treasures, and we'll have a reflection about this shortly too. We have many treasures within that have become suppressed because of the fear, because of the external influence. And what are these treasures? I think you could all know what they are very easily. The treasure of peace, treasure of love, of wisdom, of joy, of inner strength, and along with that, the many expressions of compassion, of goodness, of empathy, of understanding, of care. And more than anything, I would say, it's time for us to care for ourselves, and it's time for us to care for our earth and all the ecosystems. When we care for ourselves, we can bring our inner life into harmony. And if our inner life is in harmony, then we can begin to feel good about ourselves again. And it's this shift in consciousness, this spiritual regeneration that is needed. And I'd like to again illustrate this with a story about this connection of human consciousness and the earth and all the creatures on it. And it was mentioned in the video, the project of sustainable yogic agriculture. And the history of this really came down to one farmer. And the Brahma Kumaris in India, we are we're a very big organization in India. We work with many different projects. And one of these is de-addiction, helping people to overcome addiction to alcohol, to drugs, and so on. And this happens a lot. Well, it's in cities, it's in villages, it's everywhere, because people are finding it difficult to cope in today's situation. And there was one farmer who, in particular, had benefited a lot from this and had found quite a profound shift in himself, because part of this de-addiction training, if you like, is of course the spiritual regeneration, meditation, reflection, and a deeper understanding of ourselves, and also to a connection with the higher source, the higher being of energy. And this farmer, finding this change, he started to think about his farming situation. And the land he was farming was quite barren, and he was finding it difficult. And he thought, well, if this sort of spiritual energy can help to regenerate me and my way of being, can it have an impact on regenerating the earth? And so he began to experiment. And so when he wanted to sow seeds, he first meditated on the seeds, gave them good energy. Then sowing the seeds and the seedlings coming up, he gave them good energy. And this was the beginning, and his land began to become fertile again, which was quite amazing. And of course others seeing it thought, well, what's going on, and what is it that we can do to have this happen? And it was actually then the start of this whole project of sustainable yogic agriculture, which is now practiced by thousands of farmers in India and in some other countries, but mostly in India. And it is the farmers who have meditated each stage of crop development. And of course it's now been scientifically researched. The yields are better, bigger, the yields are more nutritious. And of course this is combined with organic farming, and then now lately with natural traditional methods of farming. So fertilizer, nourishment for the earth is actually created from the things that are already there that the farmer has to use. It's not about buying in something organic from somewhere else. It's about using what is natural to the land itself. And so it's a very holistic and sustainable way of farming. But it began with this one experiment, and it's a very clear example, or really illustrates so powerfully the principle that our consciousness really has an impact. And you know, shifting to this awareness of ecosynthesis, we know about ecosystems, but we've forgotten to take into the equation the ecosystem of the soul, or the being, or the consciousness. And when you leave that out, then it's very difficult it's very difficult for there to be a harmonious relationship with the earth, because there's a whole section of the human dimension, which is the dimension of being, that is missing. And yes, left to itself, ecosystems would be fine. But when the ecology of the soul is out of balance, it disturbs the ecosystem of the earth. And so this is why it's so important to come back to this state of inner harmony. And of course, if we really want there to be a state of regeneration, then to connect with a higher energy that's beyond us, greater than us, and yet is working for us continuously, and people have different terminologies for that higher energy, that really enables there to be a transformation that happens for the self and for the earth around us. And so the pathway is clear if we wish to take it, and it does start with the self. And perhaps we could do a short reflection now to help us experience this beautiful pathway. So I become aware that I'm a being, a conscious being. I have thoughts, memories, awareness. And so often these are influenced by the things happening around me, my relationships, circumstances. But I now wish to step away from those influences, to go deep inside, to discover my real, original self. I come to the heart of my being. And in the heart of my being, there are many treasures that I'd forgotten, or perhaps I knew they were there, but it was difficult to access them. And it's only in the times of reflection and in a silence that I can again reach those very beautiful and powerful treasures. The treasure of peace, treasure of love, the treasure of inner wisdom, the treasure of inner joy. With these treasures, I become whole again. I return to my original state of being. These treasures are constant, eternal, and they are integral to my being. I am a being of peace. I am a being of wisdom. I am a being of love. These qualities create harmony within and emanate from me an atmosphere of harmony, an atmosphere of goodness, an atmosphere that can transform that which is negative, that which is harmful, into something of benefit, something of goodness. The more I grow these inner treasures, and the more I share them, the stronger they become, and the more they can have an impact on our world in need and on the whole of our human family. It is time to care for the self, to care for humanity, to care for every living creature and all the elements of nature. We have a greeting, we say Om Shanti, which means I am peace. A reminder. Thank you. And do I hand over to you?
Thank you, Sister Maureen. And thank you, Juan, for opening the session so nicely. The session is about awakening a flourishing future, but with the subtitle Spiritual Regeneration and Indigenous Wisdom. And we've already heard some Indigenous wisdom, I think, from our first two speakers. But I wanted to share a little bit. My name is David Fletcher. I've been a student of the Brahma Kumaris for the last 20 years or so. But I've also been very blessed in that time on a parallel journey of learning from a lot of indigenous peoples from around the world. And I'm always very touched at how the resonance of different traditions particularly around relationships with nature and an understanding with nature. So what I wanted to do this afternoon was just share a little bit from some of my own learnings with the Mi'kmaq people in the eastern part of Canada and the Dagara people in the northwestern part of Ghana in West Africa, where I've spent a lot of time the last 15 years or so. And first of all, one of the things that comes to mind, and I want to honor some of my teachers from the Mi'kmaq community, Elder Albert Marshall and Carrie Prosper and Doreen Bernard and many others who thought about coming here to COP15 but weren't able to make it. And one of the things I've learned from them is in the prayers that some Mi'kmaq people use when they follow traditional ways, they end every prayer with the word Ntoguma. Ntoguma. And the word Ntoguma means all my relations. And it doesn't just mean brothers and sisters and cousins and mothers and fathers. It means all my relations. That we have to honor the relations we have with all other living beings and all parts of the biodiversity of the world. The plants, the animals, the sun, the moon, and the stars, those are all our relationships. And we need to follow those relationships in a good way. And we need to realize we have responsibility in all those relationships as well. So that's one wise piece of wisdom that I've learned from the Mi'kmaq tradition. They also talk about the concept of Nadugalunk. Excuse me for my pronunciation if there's any Mi'kmaq speakers here. Nagugalim. And it's a concept that I'm beginning to learn about, but I know I have much more to learn. But it's about the sense, the responsibility we have for the caretaking of nature, the protection of nature, but also how we interact with and we can procure things from nature for our own survival. How there can be a relationship of giving thanks and gratitude to nature, but also receiving things from water, from the air, from the plants around us for our own sustenance. And the concept of Naduglomik is to consider all of those things, but also to consider those relationships in the past for our ancestors, in the present, and in the future for future generations. So to realize that our responsibilities are not fixed in this time and place, but every action we take, we need to consider what its impact might be in the future, what its impact is now, and how our ancestors from the past would judge or evaluate the activities we're taking in the present. So those two simple words, those two simple pieces of philosophy from the Mi'kmaq people, I think show great wisdom and important messages for us to take forward as we think about spiritual regeneration and our relationships with other living beings. In West Africa, where I've been able to spend quite a bit of time with the Dagara people, I had the opportunity to learn about community resilience. And resilience has become quite a buzzword in many different practices these days. People often talk about individual resilience, sort of from a psychological perspective. And there's a whole literature and practices around that. And then people talk about ecosystem resilience and the importance for equilibrium and balance within ecosystems. But very often the relationship between the individual spiritual being living on this planet, having a human experience, and its interaction with the ecosystem, that combination of things is not considered. And it's very important for the Dagara people, when you ask them about resilience, they talk about resilience as a combination of the words kanyir, which is kind of courage and patience. You need to have courage and patience to survive. But kanyir is not the only thing. You also need longta, which is a sense of belonging to your family and your community and the broader society. And you need a sense of nolang. And nolang is a sense of unity and togetherness. So for the Dagara people, when you talk to them about resilience, it's this sense of courage and patience, thank you. Courage and patience, kanyir, from within, and a sense of longta and no long, a belongingness, a sense of belonging to your community and the broader society and the metaphysical, spiritual powers that we might not understand. So again, in those three little words, there's lots of wisdom, lots of depth of how we, someone said, walk lightly on the earth, and interact in a positive way with other living beings. The Dagara people also have this phrase, libfo manga. And the meaning of libfo manga is you need to start any change in the world by changing yourself within. You need to change within to see change in the world. And I think that's another piece of wisdom that resonates with experiences I've had in my own life, with other wisdom traditions from different parts of the world, and I think with the philosophy of ecosynthesis and the philosophy of the Brahma Kumaris as well. A Mi'kmaq friend of mine who's a well-known painter puts little stars in every painting. And he says that's because the true nature of people in the Mi'kmaq cosmology is that we've all come from the stars to be here on the earth to have a human experience. And in that human experience, we have responsibilities, reciprocal responsibilities with all other living beings and with the elements of nature. But at the same time, we remember that it's a temporary experience, and at some point we will go back to the stars. So for me, such depth of wisdom in those few words, just in two Indigenous languages, and my great hope for this COP15, and I think it's shared by many others as well, and by the Brahma Kumaris as an organization, is that there is respect and an opportunity for all Indigenous people and local communities to be involved in the negotiations and the decision making for the post-2020 framework, and that through an understanding of a spiritual regeneration and taking that Indigenous wisdom, we can move forward in a good way and achieve what we're hoping to achieve in the future. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you very much. My elders in the Dagara community, Vern Gurry and Uncle Bibi and others would be happy I was given the opportunity to share today. So on behalf of them and myself, I thank you all very much. And I think I'll turn it back to Juan, and we're going to do a little bit of a workshop activity now.
Thank you, David. And we're just gonna close this final part for the video, then we're gonna interact with each other a little bit more. But I apologize, I was supposed to start with this, but I think it's as honorable as starting to finish with recognizing that we are in Mohawk territory, Tiatiohe, which is the name of Montreal in Mohawk. As a two-spirit person, from a legacy from my great uncle and my uncle in California. When we do the sweat lodge, we do sweat lodge to go into the womb of Mother Earth so we can be reborn. And we want to close this by maybe just having a moment of silence so we can go within and perhaps reborn, because we can be reborn moment by moment, and we can energize ourselves with this spiritual energy, the most pure energy available right now. So I invite you to just to have a moment with yourself, connecting with your breath, taking a time to feel yourself, to recognize your awareness, your spirituality, the sacredness of your body, the beauty of every single human participating in this conference, the negotiators, the governments, and sending good wishes to all of them. Sending good energy, really positive vibrations, to give them an opportunity to connect with their hearts. I invite you to come back again just to feel your body, feel your breath, connect with your heart, walk peacefully, and share this beautiful energy with everyone here at COP. Om Shanti. Thank you.